Okay, in this video, I'll just show you guys how you can install Tailwind CSS from the command line. It's going to be a fast and quick one, and working with Tailwind CSS, and I'm going to do that rightly from a command line. Okay, so I'm already on the Tailwind website, so I can easily navigate to the Get Started button. So next thing I'll do is to open my terminal by searching for CMD. Okay, so I can simply go to the desktop or the document by simply saying cd document, and I can now create a folder here by saying mkdir, or probably I can call it start tailwind, start there. Okay, so I can move to that by saying cd start tailwind. Okay, so I just leave it at that now, and I can easily open this with my Visual Studio Code by saying code space dots. So if you already have a folder where you can do this, that is fine. But when you say code dots, you'll be able to open your folder, the folder you created on the terminal, on the Visual Studio Code. And so I can actually continue working here, or I can decide to do that on the Visual Studio Code terminal. So yeah, while that is trying to open, first thing I will do, I love to do whenever I'm starting up with Tailwind, is to initialize my node package model. So I will simply say npm init. So npm init will simply initialize node package model. So what it simply does is to create a JSON file, package.json file. Okay, JSON standing for JavaScript Object Notation. So it's going to create a package.json file for me, and I'll be able to install my packages, and any package that I install, I will see that package in my npm, in my node package model. Okay, so it's going to just give me this default thing as a name. Do I want it to have a tail? So I simply accept all the default stuff that is giving me here, version 1.0.0. Just the description, I can always put up those things later, and this is okay, that is fine. So if I go here back to my Visual Studio Code, I will see my package.json. So when I open the package.json, I will actually see these files that is asking me, which I just left as default. So I can decide to come back later and provide a description. I can say the beginner class on Tailwind CSS. This covers mainly installations. So the beginner's guide on Tailwind CSS. Okay. So fine. So this covers mainly installations. I did not get the spelling right there. So no problem. I can save it, save the file. So I can still work here, or I can go back here, whichever one. I can say Control Shift backtick, and I can open my terminal here, or I can switch my terminal to Visual Studio Code, and I can actually work. So from PowerShell, I can decide to change the terminal to Bash, and I'll be able to do whatever I want to do there. Or I can continue on my Windows terminal, whichever one that I want to do. So now is when we have to start installing Tailwind. So to install Tailwind, I will go back to the documentation which I opened tailwind.css.installation. Okay, so if I go there, you can actually see what it's telling me. First thing I have to do is to npm install -d tailwind css. So I can simply copy that, or I will type it manually. I can say npm I-d. So I still stands for install tailwind css. So whichever one that I do, it's so whether I'm working it here or I'm coming to this very terminal and I'm doing it, it is still going to do the same thing for me. So it's quite a very small file, which is going to take some time for it to install, and so I'll simply leave it there and it's going to install. So after installation, to verify that it has installed, I will actually see a dependency object here, and I will see Tailwind CSS being part of our dependency. We don't have it here now because it's still installing. Once the installation has completed, we will see the Tailwind CSS. So it has finished. I can see dev dependencies here, and I can always see Tailwind CSS here. So the next thing to do is to use node package module to initialize Tailwind. So I can simply copy this, and say on the terminal, I can paste it. So this will create tailwind.config.js file for me. Okay, inside here, I'm going to have tailwind.config.js file. It's going to create it for me. So you can actually verify that it has really done it here, and I have it. So this tailwind.config.js file is going to tell me the kind of file that Tailwind will be listening to. Okay, yeah, Tailwind installation, especially when you are not using React, is quite stressful a bit. But if you're working with React, especially React module like Next, I don't Next.js, I don't need, I will also show us that before the end of the video. You can actually do that. Okay, so I have it now. So if I come to my terminal and check something like there, I can actually see that I have tailwind.config.js showing me here as part of my terminal. So what I will do, back to documentation, I'm going to add change the content. My content is an array. Okay, I'm going to change that content to represent what I have here. So I have copied it, and I'm coming back to my tailwind.config.js, and I select that and I paste it. So a little modification I'm going to do here is to delete this source and this, because I don't need a source folder. The SRC means I need a source folder. Okay, now this means asterisk means 0 or not. So there is a folder, or there can be a file with any name as far as that name of that file is .html or .js that Tailwind is listening to it. So meaning any file that I have here that has .html file is going to listen to it. So I'm going to create a .html file here, called it index.html. So this is the file that should be listening to. Mind you, if I'm going to do Next.js, I don't need all these protocols in order to install Next. Okay, so next thing I will do is, it's always advisable that I create a .gitignore file. Okay, I can go to the terminal and say touch.gitignore. So I need to ignore the node package modules in this file. So the node package modules needs to be ignored. Okay, so it has created a .gitignore file for me. I can go there and simply say /nodes_modules, so that I don't make mistake whenever I want to push, in case I want to push this file to GitHub later. I don't need to push the node modules to GitHub. It's going to crash my Git, okay? Especially when I want to push it to remote repository, it's going to crash it, and that is not advisable. Now, node modules are very, very important, but even if I fork or I clone this work from GitHub, first thing I have to do is to say npm install. So that will install all the dependencies. To just go to the package.json and look at all the dependencies that it has there and be able to install all those dependencies. So I will definitely have my node modules back later. So I don't need my node models. That's why I have to create the .git ignore and make sure that it is ignored. So this is my index.html, but there's nothing in it yet. So I can simply just put up a new file there, exclamation mark, just my normal boilerplate, can call it start tailwind CSS. So can simply give it a h1. Let's see, this is my first line tailwind CSS. So it's not yet done because I've not actually included the file that is going to be watching. I can open this with my live server while that is still going on. I can come back here and say, what is the next thing I have to do? I have to create an input.css file, and I need to include these tailwind dependencies there, the dev, the components, and the utilities. So I'm going to copy that. Just click on this icon to copy. Now, I mustn't call it, if you look at what is here, it says that I must have a CRC file and input.css here, but I must not have it, right? So I can decide to call my own style.css. So I'm going to call it style.css. And because I'm not using I'm not using a source folder, so I will definitely not going to use a source folder, and I will tell you what to do there. So this is just all that I need in order for me to start working with Tailwind, and that is fine. So when we have done this, next thing we have to do is that we need to run our Tailwind. Guys, pay attention at this part. We need to be running this on the terminal. Run the CLI2 on the terminal. So once I do this, what does this do? This is going to look for a file called source, a folder called source, and a file called input.css inside the folder called source. And it's going to create an output.css inside the folder called this. So it's going to create these ones for me. Okay, and this file is always going to be watched. So meaning that anytime I want to run my Tailwind effectively, I need to make sure that this file is running, this thing is running. But this code is, I don't want you to memorize it because I'm actually going to modify it even as it is, because my own CSS is called style.css and not input.css, and I don't have a source folder. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I want you to do that. So inside my package.json, all right, I'm going to put a comma here and create a dev property. A dev key is an object, and I will include that there. So I'm going to make some modification. First of all, I will need to remove npx because I will need to say npm run dev before I can be able to do this. So I'm also going to remove this source. In fact, I'm removing most of these things because my own name is style. So I'm going to make sure that I spell it well. So let me just leave this one the way it is, and that is fine for me. So once I have done that, next thing I will do is to run my terminal. Okay, once I run my terminal, I'm good to go. So the installation process is virtually completed, and I don't really have anything to do again. So coming to my terminal, let me just use my command line terminal, and I will say npm run dev. So my terminal will be running. And once this thing is going on, I will notice that it will create a dist folder for me here. If I open the dist folder, I will see an output.css file inside it. Okay, once it has run that, npm run dev will definitely do that effectively for me, and I don't really need to do much thing here. Okay, so that should have been done. Okay, so it's still building. You can see it here, it's in your building. So this npm run dev, you could also choose to run it here. So you can see that has been created now. If I open my output.css, you can see the entire files that it has created for me. So it is this output.css, guys, that I'm going to use as a link for my index.html. So if you look here, just watch, you see how my file is looking, but immediately I put this link here. So link css dot slash dist output.css, that is fine. So immediately I save that, can you see that my tailwind is now running and this is fine? Okay, so if I want to stop my terminal from running, I can actually, can see my terminal is running, which means the last thing it ran was in 142 milliseconds ago. If I want to stop my terminal from running, I can simply say Ctrl C, Command C, okay, and Command C will stop my terminal from running. Come on. Yeah, so I have killed my terminal. So with this now, some codes may not naturally work again. So yeah, if I come here and I say class, probably I give it something like text center. So this IntelliSense again is popping up because so text center will simply put the text to the center. I see it has brought it to the center. And if I want color, I can say BG orange this. So this will give it a background color. And if I look here, I will see that the background color is not appearing. The reason this background color is not showing is because my terminal is no longer running. Okay, so I need to make sure that my terminal is running for me to be able to write some things with Tailwind. So I can come back to this terminal or I can use my PowerShell terminal, whichever one, but let me just come here and I say npm run dev. If I do not say npm run dev, I need to do my npm the way I need to run that npm code again. So you can see my code is rebuilding, and now the color has appeared. It tries to show you that my terminal needs to be running for me to use some things in Tailwind, and that is very, very nice. Okay, so if I say uppercase, I can see that the text will come to capital letter. And if I say PUX, PS or PY, padding left and right, and I can say PY to be 8 and save it. You can see that I have created padding there. So in subsequent class, I will also show us what all these styles mean and how we can be giving these Tailwind classes. Tailwind only wants you to be in your HTML, to be writing your classes only on HTML. All right, so you will need to, for this IntelliSense that is always popping up, it is go to your extensions and then search for Tailwind IntelliSense. So it's a Tailwind IntelliSense, so you need to install it and maximize this page. You need to install it. I've already installed mine. Okay, so once you have it installed, it will, the IntelliSense will always be showing you anytime you type anything on Tailwind. Once you are typing Tailwind, it's going to be dictating to you, okay, this is what you're writing. So if I say text blue, so this IntelliSense popping up here will always show you what it is. Okay, so that is it on this class. So before we round up, I say I also show us how installing Tailwind is very easy, especially when you are running React. So I'm not going to finish the installation because, but I'll just show us that. So if I say to install next React framework called next, I say nps create next app. I will call it TailCSS. Okay, nps create next app TailCSS. So we are not to do this. Yeah, this is necessary when you are working with next. Okay, so if I try to come, so you see, it's asking me, would I need TypeScript? I don't need TypeScript. I don't need S-links. Then it's asking me, would I like you to install Tailwind CSS for me? And I will say yes to that. I want it to one mark below. It's yes. So do I want it to create a source directory for me? I don't need this. So I can simply say, okay, I want app. can just navigate to yes, I don't want any alias, and then it will be able to install it for me. So guys, it's quite easy, and I can easily run my next app. Well, installing Tailwind is not stressful at all whenever you're working with React. You don't even need to be doing all this that we have to do to install next on HTML. Okay, so that is it, and I hope you find this video quite helpful.